Hey guys, are we ready? Are we ready for this? Hey, Jilly Bean, Nancy, Carla, Judy, Terry. Hey guys, I got. Nancy, oh Carla, shoot, Judy, Terry. Sorry, I got my coffee. I got my protein shake. I didn't have time to make my energy tea, but I'll do that after I finish these. I bought these nifty little desk organizer thingies. There's 3 different sizes. There's the little ones for like paper clips and stuff, and the bigger ones, and then these bigger ones. Do y'all think I have enough pins? I don't think I have enough pins. What do y'all think? And the one I just pulled out, brand new. I keep thinking I don't have enough pins and I keep buying more. I needed these drawer organizers bad. I didn't realize I had this many pins. I'm glad I got these. Now I can stop buying pins. Markers too. These drawer organizers are going to save me some money. And now you guys won't have to hear me rummaging for stuff when I need something out of the drawer. And just open it and find it real quick because I have my little tray set up. I'm a mess, y'all. I am the most disorganized person in the world. Oh, my house. And Travis always like, would you clean this mess up? Do something with this stuff. I keep tripping over it, getting it out of my way. Every time I put something away, I can't find it again. But I know where it is when it's there, Travis. Leave me alone. When I put it up, I can't find it again. And then I'll be looking for something else like a year later, and I'll be like, oh, there's where that is. I love back to school shopping. I love it. But I don't have anybody to buy for. So I just wander the aisles. And when they put out the back to school lists, I'm like, why didn't they have that when I was in school? I want a list of things that I have to buy. I love that stuff. I love it. I don't know why. I don't know why. In case I need them for something. Correction tape. I buy them off of Temu so they're cheaper. Thank you, Tilly Bean. You make me feel validated now. Okay, we are on day 4, and we got done with the lab guy that did the gosh, I wish my eyes would quit watering, you guys. I am perfectly fine, I promise, but it's gonna look like I'm crying all day. My eyes do this. Yes, we're in school today. Usually it's just the left one. Today it's both of them. I don't know what is happening. I don't know. I know that I have psoriasis. I do know that. I think I have psoriasis on my left eyelid because since I was a kid, and like in my eyebrow, because since I was a kid, anytime we went to the beach, it would burn on my eyelid, or on my eyebrow right there, in my eyelid. I've got like a kind of like a rough patch on my eyelid right there. And when I wear this is why I don't wear makeup most of the time. Because when I put eyeshadow or anything on this eye, it irritates it really bad and it will burn and super water. So it's usually the left eye, but today it's both eyes. I don't know why. And then I've got a little patch of psoriasis here. So when it waters and then it goes down and it hits this, then this will start to itch because of the salt in the tears. So that's what's happening with me today. I feel good. I'm awake now. Brain fluid leaking out. Yeah, probably. So don't worry about me. I'm not crying. I did cry this morning when I found out Val Kilmer died, but I'm not crying now. I'm just leaking. I'm leaking. Yeah, so Val Kilmer had throat cancer. I did not know that. He had gotten a tracheotomy, so, but he still acted like his voice was really, really weird and hard to understand. Um, but he was in Maverick, which I didn't realize. And he was his last thing he did, he was in a movie with his daughter, and he wore like a scarf over so you couldn't see the hole. My cousin's husband's dad had, I think he had throat cancer. I think it was throat cancer. He has one too. Um, and his voice is weird, but it's not quite as bad as Val Kilmer's had gotten. But like you cover the hole so that the air doesn't escape through the hole, and then you can talk. But it's your voice is different. But Val Kilmer's voice had, I mean, it was very difficult to understand. Um, but they showed on the little thing that I watched online this morning, they showed a little bit of a part of a scene from Maverick, and you could understand him pretty good. I don't know if they did some like editing or something to make him sound clearer, but then they showed some interviews with him and he sounded awful. But I mean, if you got to do that to live longer, you got to do that. So it's just so sad. He was 65. That's young. It's so sad. But don't smoke. I mean, I'm not blaming, you know, I don't blame anybody that gets cancer. It's not your fault you got cancer. Um, but don't smoke. It's so sad. Warwick Davis. Do you guys know who Warwick Davis is? He's a little person. He was in Star Wars, played many, many different roles in many, many different Star Wars movies. He was um, the main character in Willow. Yeah. He, I've seen him in person at when, what do they call Disney Studios now in Florida? It was MGM, then it was Hollywood Studios, then it was Disney. I don't know what they're calling it now. Anyway, they used to have Star Wars weekends there back before they had all the Star Wars attractions there. And they did it in the summer for like, it was like 2 or 3 weekends in a row, and they would have people from the movies there, and they would sign autographs, and then they would have this like interview session with them, and they'd have stormtroopers standing around the auditorium with guns, and they'd be like, move along, move along. It was so much fun. um and Warwick Davis was there, and he's like, I have to tell you the story about Val Kilmer. And anytime, yeah, he was in Harry Potter too. Anytime ever I think I saw Warwick Davis do an interview, he would tell the story about Val Kilmer, about when they were making Willow, he flicked a cigarette and it landed in a woman's costume, like right in here. And I got to hear him tell it live, but I've heard him tell it on TV and like every interview I've ever seen him do practically. He loves telling that story. And it was funny at the time, but now looking back, it's kind of sad. Because that's the reason, probably the reason why he got the throat cancer, you know? And I had an aunt that smoked that died of lung cancer too, so I used to smoke. I don't smoke anymore. Okay. Well, and he's my favorite Batman too, because he's the only Batman that ever smiled. Oh wait, I forgot to share my screen.
Looking at the treads on the ground.
The live part, I had it set.
Like.
Yes.
Ask for it to continue to a one.
Okay.
Oh, is it going to be one of those days? Everything has been good today. Oh my goodness. You guys, I know why my eyes watering. Oh, I know what's wrong with my eyes. I don't know why the right one is watering. But I know why the left one is. I can't believe I forgot this. You're going to love this one, y'all. When I sprayed deodorant this morning, I had the nozzle turned the wrong way and I squirted myself in the eye. Mystery solved. Okay. Come on, StreamYard. Come on. Behave. Darn you, StreamYard. I was going to reboot.
Welcome back.
I was going to reboot the computer during the break and forgot. Darn it. Why? You have been so good lately. I was using roll-on, but then I tried that all over deodorant stuff. I didn't buy the expensive. I hate those commercials too. What is it? What is Lumi? I cannot stand the lady on those commercials. She's just, I don't know. I don't like her. But then Dove, was it Dove? Secret. I don't remember if it's Dove or Secret. They came out with one. So I tried it. And I like it. But this is the first time I sprayed myself in the eye with it. I don't know what StreamYard's problem is. I started turning my computer completely off, not just letting it go to sleep, and it has started working better. But I don't know what the deal is today. It doesn't like me today.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Detective Tom to the stand, please.
Come on, let me hide the long crime logo. I may need to turn the camera off. Come on, sweetheart.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And once you're settled in, give us your full name and spell the last. It's generally easier to move the microphone than it is the chair. So if you could move that close to your mouth, please, so jury can hear you.
Tom Maciowski, Maciauski.
Thank you. Ms. Ideming?
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, what is your current occupation?
I'm retired.
And what did you do before you retired?
I was a deputy sheriff for Van Buren County,
And how many years were you a deputy sheriff?
29 years here.
And were you a detective at some point as well?
Yes.
When did you become a detective?
I believe the first time was 2007 in narcotics.
And so on January 7th of 2007, were you a detective at that time?
Yeah, I may have misspoken. I was in the 90s and I was a narcotics detective. In 2007, I would have been a criminal investigation detective.
And were you, did you become involved in an investigation involving the death of Tom Stermer at that time on January 7th of 07?
Yes, I did.
And how did you become involved?
I was notified, I believe through dispatch, that there was a fire that occurred out, I believe, on 215, and that there was a subject there at the scene that was deceased and was asked to go to the scene there.
Do you recall approximately around what time you arrived on scene?
I want to say it was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do you recall approximately what time then the fire had occurred?
I do not remember exactly what time or remember when the fire occurred.
So once you were dispatched, did you then proceed to the scene on County Road 215?
Yes, I did.
And what did you observe when you arrived?
When I got there, I could see from the roadway that there was a lot of fire equipment in the form of fire trucks and such down a long driveway that I believe traveled west off of 215. There was a deputy or reservist at the front of the driveway restricting entrance into there.
So was the driveway actually then taped off, or
It
were
would
they
have been
just-
something like that, taped off, or certainly access would have been restricted by the officer that was there.
Then did you walk down the driveway?
I believe that part I'm not sure whether I parked alongside the shoulder of the driveway or whether I stayed out on the street, but I did walk the majority of the driveway back to the house.
Any of the fire vehicles or emergency vehicles or law enforcement vehicles, were any of them stuck in that driveway?
No.
And did you see a fence at all on the property?
It appeared that there was a fence going around the property. I can't say the exact, how much of the acreage was covered by fence, but when you first came in, there was a fence.
And could you see the home at that point enough to then recall what it looked like?
Yes.
And what did the home look like?
It was a two-story home. It was still, when I got there, there was some remnants of being on fire still. Fire crews were still actively working the fire, but it was definitely a two-story residence. If I recall, it was yellow siding on it.
And at that point, did you know what the terrain was with the basement?
At that time, no, not till later.
And once you arrived, did you make contact with anyone from the sheriff's department?
I did.
Who did you make contact with?
Would have been Deputy Verge Franks.
And were you briefed then about the facts that they were aware of at that time?
Yes, he informed me of one being deceased and stating, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sorry.
Your Honor, I'm just getting a basis for then what his investigation and what was leading him then to then make further investigation. So not offering it for the truth of the matter, just in terms of investigative, the basis of what his knowledge was.
I'll allow it for that purpose.
Thank you. So you were briefed then with Sergeant Franks. Did you also meet with Deputy Evans at that time?
I did.
Stupid objection.
And do you recall who else was on scene in terms of lay people?
I had been informed that there were neighbors that were on the scene. Mike Matheny, I believe, and his girlfriend at the time, Connie Calhoun.
Did you see them?
I did.
And where were they at?
At the time, they were in a personal vehicle on the property towards the front of the house.
Did you see the defendant?
No, not at that time.
Did you see her at any time then when you were on the property?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. And did you then make contact with any of the witnesses on scene after your initial briefing?
Yes.
Who did you make contact with?
I made contact with Mike Matheny and Connie Calhoun.
And you spoke to both of them?
I did.
At some point, did you become aware that Todd had been moved from the original location where Deputy Evans found him?
I was informed by Deputy Evans that they had moved Todd Stermer from where he was located at originally to a location house.
Were you shown where the body was positioned when he was found?
Sorry?
Were you shown by law enforcement where the body was originally found?
Yes.
At that time, were there flags marking that area?
I don't recall.
And did you find any evidence that assisted you in determining that that was in fact the location he was found?
Observation wise, I did see that there was pooling water or fluid that was stained red, medical waste from people at the ambulance working on Todd Stermer. I believe it may have been rubber gloves or some tubing or things like that.
Did you have an opportunity to view Mr. Todd Stermer while you were on scene?
I did.
And can you describe to the jury then what you viewed and saw?
He was laying on the ground, had several items of clothing placed over him because of the inclement weather at the time. To me, it appeared like he had been burnt. I don't know what his hair looked like before, but it looked like his hair had been mostly burnt. When the medical examiner turned him over onto his side, I could see a large 3 to 4 inch laceration to the back of his skull. His clothing was disheveled. His sweatpants were done around his ankles. He was in stocking feet, just socks on that I saw. Basically, that was it. You could tell his upper chest area had been exposed. but it mostly had been covered up with, from what I later learned, items of clothing that had been placed on him to keep him warm by the Matheny's.
And at the time, was he laying on the ground or was he laying on something else?
That I don't recall. He may have been on a backboard, if I can remember correctly.
Speculating. Just testified he doesn't remember now. He's saying he may have been.
I'll overrule that. I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you observe any, did you smell anything at that point?
Smell an odor of accelerant gasoline.
How close were you to the body then when you smelled that?
Within, I'd say 6 to 8 inches. That was right there.
Did you remove anything from Todd's body for processing? You talked about all the items.
Yes, I took the items that were covering his body, jackets, shirts, sweatshirts. There was I believe, a blanket and a couple of sheets that we determined belonged to the ambulance crew. The clothing items were placed into a brand new, I would call it a garbage bag, for lack of a better term. I took them off and placed them in the bag, which Tony Evans then took possession of. The sweatpants that he was wearing were taken at that time by the fire marshal and taken into evidence by him.
And do you recall what happened? Were there any items that were left on the body then to go in the body bag?
I believe his socks were still on. There was a shirt and underwear, which I remember from the autopsy had been taken out of the body bag.
And then all the other items were packaged separately?
That's correct.
And through your conversations with Mr. Matheny, were you able to determine items that belonged to him?
Yes, Mr. Matheny identified the items that he had placed on Todd Stermer at the time that he had come to that scene.
And that included the items then that went in the clean garbage bag?
That's correct.
Excuse me, objection form, leading, and it's hearsay.
I will sustain as the leading.
What items did you put in the garbage bag?
I can remember a few items. I can't remember from that far back every item, but I know that there was a sweatshirt. There was a jacket that was like a Carhartt coat or similar to that. There was, I want to say, another shirt or something of that nature, but a couple of jackets or coats that I can remember. I'd have to look and see what I put in the report to state item for item.
Would it help refresh your memory if I showed you your report?
Sure.
Once you get a chance to refresh your memory, if you could just turn those over and then I'll ask you again. Did that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
And I'll just ask you, what items then did you take and put into the clean garbage bag?
It would have been a maroon colored jacket, a tan colored Carhartt style coat, a black and white plaid long sleeve shirt, and a brown hoodie type sweatshirt.
Do you recall the location of the shirt that you said went into the body, where that was located on Todd's body?
I don't.
And once you put those items in the garbage bag, what did you do with them?
I turned them over to Deputy Evans to place the evidence hold on to for any further processing that may be needed.
And then did you do anything with the items that were left on the body?
No, I did not, that I recall.
And did you view Sergeant Leroy then take possession of, I believe you said, the sweatpants?
I did.
And who was Scott Leroy on scene at that time? What was his title?
State Police District Fire Marshal.
After you observed Todd and the condition of his body, were you able to walk around the scene?
I was.
And what did you observe as you were walking around the scene?
Where the house was at when you first pulled up, the long driveway comes out and it's like an open area in front of the house. And then I can't attest a lot memory-wise the east side of the house, but the west side of the house does seem to slope downward. That would be honestly the northwest side. It's like an embankment that goes down around to the back of the house. The house appeared to have at one point had a balcony, but there was a cement slab on the back, like a walkout from the basement. It's difficult to say how it looked up above in the front because there was, like I said, so many emergency vehicles and stuff there. But basically nothing as you're going down the northwest side of the house. It was pretty blanketed. I believe there was a fence along the west end covering the back of the house back there. I observed a brown van that was parked behind the house on the northwest side, and the vehicle was running. I'd been told by Deputy Evans that the vehicle was in that location when he arrived and that it was running at that time.
And it was still running then when you looked at it?
That is correct.
How did you know it was running?
It was cold out. You could see the exhaust and you could hear it running.
Did you observe on the north side of the home, and because I'm directionally challenged, I'm going to say when you're looking at the front of the house to the right, did you observe if there was any pathways in that yard?
I can't remember that there was necessarily a pathway. I do remember where Deputy Evans showed me where the body of Todd Stermer originally was, and you could see where the van was located, kind of like a trail going from there, from where the body was at, down to where the van was at.
From the front yard driveway to where the body was there any improved trail or driveway leading to the body?
No, there was nothing that I saw that looked like a regular driveway that went down back behind the house.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There was no appearance that I could see of a driveway that went from the front of the house down the side of the house, which would be the north side, around to the west or back of the house.
What was the terrain or the makeup of the side yard there?
Near as I can remember, it was kind of like grass and dirt for the most part.
Did you see a shed on the property?
I don't recall.
And I want to talk to you about a little more about those tire impressions that you looked at. You said that you were able to see the direction of the tire tracks from the body to the backyard,
Yes,
and you were able to see those clearly?
yes,
And did they appear to just be one continuous motion?
yes.
And was it clear that the tire tracks you were looking at from the body to the back of the house, was it clear that those were not made by emergency vehicles or fire trucks?
It's leading to, so I'll sustain.
Were you able to determine tracks that were made by emergency vehicles and by fire trucks?
I'm going to say no. The upper area in front of the house was a mishmash of vehicles everywhere. The only way place that I could see anything definite was from that location where I was shown Todd Stermer to originally have been laying to where the van was parked. There was only one set of tracks that you could make out that were going from that location to the back of that van.
To the back of the van?
I saw no other crisscross traffic or anything like that. It was just one clear set of tracks.
And at that time, were there flags placed?
There was.
And where were the flags placed?
I believe they were placed on the backs, or excuse me, on the outer side of the tire tracks. And there may have been flags placed where Deputy Evans had stated Todd Stermer was at when he had located him.
Did you examine the tire tracks to see if there was any evidence of a vehicle being stuck?
I did not notice any. In looking at somebody who gets stuck in a track, there's going to be a lot of spinning and dirt or mud or whatever flying up from that. There will be a rut. I saw no ruts. I saw no dirt flung about or anything like that. I just saw the two tire track trails going to the vehicle.
And did you take some photos while you were on scene?
I may have.
I want to just talk to you a little bit about that van. You saw that it was running and it was the exhaust, correct?
Yes, I walked around the van while it was there.
And did you take note of the license plate and the VIN number?
Yes, at the time I was there, I did record the VIN number and the license plate from the van.
Were you able to determine then from those two things who owned the van?
I believe it was registered to Todd Stermer.
Did you see what was in the van at that time?
I made brief observations. I did not go inside the van, but I could see through the windows.
What did you see then through the windows?
I saw that the key was in the ignition and the vehicle was running. I believe I saw a black purse laying on the floorboards of the passenger side. Looking in, the van was kind of in disarray. There's a lot of stuff in there. Not making particularly any note of anything other than seeing a purse in there and the keys in the ignition running.
Did you notice anything unusual about the exterior of the van?
Yes, when I walked around the van, in the front of the van, there is a plastic skirt that goes under the bumper. And then above that is a chrome bumper. On the driver's side, there was red staining on the plastic skirting. And then above that, there was a little bit of red staining on the bumper, on the driver's side of the vehicle.
What was done with that van?
At that time, it was, I believe it went from raining to snowing. And at that point, it would have been determined that the van was going to be needed for further processing. So a wrecker company was called and the vehicle was loaded onto a flatbed type wrecker and was transported to, I believe, Decatur Towing, and had been placed inside their facility there at Decatur Towing until such time that a search warrant could be obtained to go through the inside of the vehicle and further analysis on the outside.
At some point then you had said that there were people that were blocking the driveway when you came in.
Yes, there was a deputy at the front of the entrance there.
Was the scene secured then throughout the evening?
To my knowledge, somebody was there until the scene was released.
Which would have been when?
I do not remember.
Were you present then when the van was examined at Decatur Towing?
I was.
And did you take pictures of the van?
I did.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit number 29. And there are 13 photos with exhibit number 29. If you could just take a look at these photos and tell me if you recognize them. Recognize those photos?
Yes,
And why do you recognize those?
they appear to be photos that I took.
Changed or altered in any way?
Not that I recall, no.
Your Honor, the people would move to admit People's Exhibit number 29 into evidence at this time.
Objection, Your Honor.
Court will receive Exhibit 29.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Thank you. I'm going to show you 29-1. Could you describe to the jury what we're looking at here?
That is the Ford van that I saw out at the Stermer residence, parked out back behind on the northwest side of the home. The photo that I took was of the front left side of the van, depicting the red stain on that plastic skirting and depicting the tires on the vehicle.
I'm going to go then to picture number 2 of this exhibit. Can you describe what we're looking at here?
That would be the red stain that I saw on the driver's side front of the vehicle, that plastic skirting.
Advancing to then number 3, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
That is a photo of a red staining to the front driver's side tire, I believe.
I'm going to advance then to number 4. What are we looking at here?
Number 4 would be the undercarriage, I believe driver's side. You can see parts of the suspension spring and such, and there was, difficult to say, but red staining there as well.
Is that what you were taking a picture of, is the red
Yes.
staining? And I'm going to advance then to number 5. Let me stop you real quick. Are you then starting at the front of the van going back when you're taking these pictures?
Yes.
And what are we looking at here in picture number 5?
Okay, on this one, it is red staining from underneath the vehicle, but I would have to look back at my notes to see exactly what I'm depicting. It is traveling backwards in sequence, but exactly what piece that is, I cannot remember.
It's on the underbody of the
Yes,
van
it would be the underside of the vehicle.
as you're walking back then from the front.
That is correct.
I'm going to advance then to slide number 6. What are we looking at here?
Again, undercarriage suspension on the driver's side. You can kind of depict the right front tire there, and what I guess next is like a running board from the underside inside, going a long way back.
So,
I'm sorry, I missed that. What side?
I said on the side there, you could see the running board next to the tire. So it's kind of taking a picture to the outside of the vehicle from underneath.
so if I were then looking at the red staining, where is the running board that you're talking about?
Go down there.
So this is what you're talking about?
Yes,
the running-
this it's just
Right.
part of it is part of the running board, but the actual photo isn't depicting the red stain.
And so the actual photo, the reason you took the photo is because of this staining that I'm pointing at here in the photo,
Correct,
kind of in the middle of the photograph.
correct.
Okay, and I'm going to advance then to number 7. What are we looking at here?
That's the driver's side rear axle, rear tire. You can kind of see the spare tire mounted underneath to the left, but that is the driver's side rear axle area in the red stain.
And you said we're looking at the rear tire. This is the
Rear
extra
tire
spare
mounted
tire.
underneath. Yep,
So maybe the record reflect, I'm pointing to like the left side of the picture in the middle, right in that area.
yes,
And you were taking it because of the staining.
yes.
I'm going to advance then to photo number 8. What are we looking at here?
Photo number 8 is a picture of the red tire, or excuse me, the rear tire on the vehicle. Appears to have some kind of staining on the back of that.
And that's the tire that we just had in the previous photo.
Yes, that's the spare tire, I believe, mounted underneath the van.
I'm going to advance then to photo number 9. What are we looking at here?
Number 9 is a picture, again, that's a running board that you're looking at the bottom section there.
So I'm going to stop you real quick. The running board that
Right,
you
yeah, if you
referenced
go
is
down just a little bit, there,
Right there.
that's the running board,
right
yep.
there.
Again, that's pretty much, I can't tell you exactly why. There may be a red stain there, slightly above center.
So if I'm in the center. are
Keep
you
going,
talking
keep right
about-
there, Yep.
And,
right.
and may the record reflect I'm directly in the middle of photograph number 9. I'm going to advance then to photograph number 10. What are we looking at here?
Again, the undercarriage of the vehicle in red stain. I want to say that's like part of the suspension bolt that holds the suspension in, but it's underneath the vehicle on the driver's side and it's red staining.
I'm going to advance then to number 11. And what are we looking at here?
Then I'm not an automotive person, but there is this metal box underneath the vehicle, and in the right lower corner, there was red staining there as well.
So you're talking about this box here,
That box there and to the right there, yes,
and we're looking at then the staining right there on that corner.
yes.
And I'm going to advance to our last photo on number 12. What are we looking at here?
That's a photograph that indicates the right passenger side of the vehicle on the front. Captain's chair with a black purse on the floorboard there.
And actually, I lied to you. There are 13 photos. And what are we looking at here?
That's a photo from the front passenger side over to the driver's side, depicting the key in the ignition and basically how it looked from that center console area.
Did you go through the interior of the van, those contents?
I did.
And did you go through the purse that was located on the passenger side?
I did.
And what did you find in the purse?
Inside the purse, lots of various items, but there was a wallet. There was ID for, I believe, Linda Stermer. And I believe cash-wise, there was $202.
So there's $202 in cash in there?
I believe so.
Did you get an opportunity to see what was behind the front seat row?
I did look throughout the van, and between the passenger and driver's seat, I found I call it a portfolio, but it's like an envelope, a big envelope that you put things in. As I recall, it had a wallet in there, or I think it was a leather wallet of some kind. The back of the van was filled with multiple boxes of gloves, which I later understood was a side business that Mr. Stermer and Mrs. Stermer were involved in. I think was selling of gloves to hardware stores, things like that. But there was a lot of packages of gloves back there.
Was the van pretty full in the back?
Yes, yes.
And did you attend the autopsy on January 8th of 2007?
I did.
And that was with Dr. Markey?
I'm sorry?
Was that with Dr. Markey?
Yes.
At that time, did you take possession of any of the clothing that came in the body bag?
I did.
Do you recall what items you took possession of?
I took possession of 2 socks, a shirt, a pair of underwear, and I believe they also issued me what we would refer to as a DNA card, a sample of DNA from the deceased. That would have been turned over to me as well.
And what did you do then with those items?
They were transported back to the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office, and I believe at some point were turned over to the fire marshal, as well as I believe the DNA card was turned over to the crime lab for comparison analysis to samples that they had taken that same day of the search warrant of the van.
Were you the one that packaged up those items?
I don't recall. They were placed in, I call them evidence cans. They look like paint cans, but they're silver, unused. And each item was placed into one of those paint cans, for lack of a better term, evidence can, and by the Dr. Markey and staff, and then recorded and handed over to me. And they were sealed at that location as well.
I'm going to show you what's been admitted. I'm going to show you what's been admitted as People's Exhibit number 25. And do you recognize that?
Yes, there's more labels on it than what I remember, but the label I do remember is of the autopsy lab number, which is a small sticker on here, A071024, Todd Stermer, content sock. That I do remember, and would be what they handed me that day at the autopsy.
So these are what you're referring to as containers?
Yes,
Containers
they
of
look like paint cans. Yes, ma'am.
When you were, I apologize, I forgot to ask you this question. When you were underneath the van taking pictures, the Michigan State Police Crime Lab was there as well, correct?
Yes.
Did you see any evidence? I'm gonna stop. You talked about the looking at the treads on the ground to see if there was any evidence of somebody being stuck. Did you see any evidence of the van being stuck when you were underneath the van taking pictures?
Objection, call from to speculate what he would see underneath a van to see if it was stuck a day before in whatever terrain.
I don't overrule it. I don't think it's speculation.
In observing the van out there, I did not see, both at the scene and at the search warrant, did not see what you would consider big clumps of dirt and mud stuck all over the van where it would appear that it was stuck or had been, if you've ever been stuck, rocking the vehicle back and forth, moving it back and forth and getting large amounts of matter stuck up in it. There was, the tires at the time I'd seen them were wet and did have dirt on them, but it's more like muddy water than it would be clumps of soil, if that makes any sense, observation-wise.
At some point in your investigation, did you become aware that the defendant went to the Marathon station in Lawrence?
Yes,
And what did you do upon receiving that information?
I went to the Village Marathon in Lawrence. I did meet with the owner, Sue Oppold, and I requested from her, knowing that they did have video at that location, did request videotapes, VHS type from that location, which was their type of surveillance at the time. And also for the tape register for the purchases that may have occurred at that time. And she did supply those to me.
Were you able to then review the VHS tapes?
I did.
And did you see anything of any evidentiary value on those tapes?
I did not.
And why is that?
The time frame established to where Ms. Stermer had been at the marathon, you could see transactions before that, but at the time frame or shortly before that time frame, it stopped showing video of actions at the store and just went to what I call snow, like, you know, when the TV show's off the air, it just went blank, so to speak, and that was the end of it. I did take them to the sheriff's department in Kalamazoo County, where they have, back at that time, video analysis, where they would look at things and had them look at the videotapes as well, and there was nothing there that they could recover or get from those videotapes.
There was just nothing in that time frame that you needed or
No,
could find.
there was not.
And you said you were able then to collect tape
That's
of some
weird.
sort?
The register tape from the transactions of that day and what was purchased and what time and things like that.
Mr. Confrontational 1 or Mr. Confrontational 2? That's weird that the tapes were just static when she was there. Did she have some kind of locker to block the video? Because I was like, finally, we have some evidence that she did something. And no, it was just static. because she went out that morning and she got gas in the gas can, but she tried to make it look like she was putting it in her car.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 30-1 and 30-2. I'll start out with 30-1. Do you recognize this item?
Yeah, this appears to be the cash register tape roll from the Lawrence Marathon that I received from the
The
owners.
whole
And
Back,
that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that was back on 2/1 of 2007.
nobody.
And that's when you received it?
That's correct. I believe it's when I received it.
2/1 of 07?
February, well, that's what I have dated here from Sue Apple to Detective Sergeant Maciowski, 2/1 of 2007.
And has it been altered or changed in any way?
It appears to look like the same tape. It's been some time, but yes,
And those are your initials on the outside of the packaging?
that is, well, you say initials, and
Or your name or signature?
it is my name printed on the chain of custody on the first receiving of it.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as 30-2. Do you recognize this item?
Yes, it's a copy of the receipt that was determined to be on the roll that was here in this package from the Lawrence Marathon for the transaction that occurred using what would be Todd Stermer's MasterCard on the date of 1/7/2007.
Your Honor, this time I move to admit People's Exhibit number 30, including both -30-1 and 30-2 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Court will receive 31 and 32.
And just so the record is clear, there are two exhibit stickers, one dated of 2007 and one dated for today on the packaging.
Okay.
Once you got that tape, you were able to then go through that tape?
Yes,
And did you determine then the relevant transaction or what may be of interest to you at that time?
I believe so, yes.
And that's where then the copy was made of the individual receipt?
That's correct.
Once you then collected that tape, you took the pictures of the van and you examined the scene. Can you tell the jury then what your involvement was other than those items?
After doing that part of investigation, it would have been then follow up to any information that we may have come into contact with, follow-up interviews with people, basically information that came in either through evidence or through people we would have followed up on and assigned people to do just that, interviews or collect items, keep in touch with the prosecutor's office and for their input and proceeding with the case.
So if you received tips,
We received, through interviews, people would provide information, and then from that information, we would follow up and see where that would lead as well.
as part of your follow-up, did you interview Cynthia Deloach?
I did.
And who was she?
Cynthia Deloach was a clerk at the Lawrence Marathon at the time that those items had been that were seen on that receipt using the credit card of Todd Stermer. She was the clerk that was working that day when those items were purchased.
You interviewed Chris Williams.
I did.
Did you interview Trevor Stermer,
I believe I did.
Trenton Stermer?
I believe I did.
Interviewed Dardita Gordon.
I believe I did as well.
And where did you interview Dardita Gordon at?
It would have been at the Van Buren County Jail.
So she was incarcerated at that time?
I believe she was.
Can you describe the demeanor of Dardita Gordon at the time you interviewed her?
I use the word guarded, but it could be kind of, she was willing to speak with me, but she was kind of nervous at the same time.
And did you share details of the scene, the investigation, and any evidence that you had with Dardita prior to your interview?
I'll overrule that and I'll allow it.
It's difficult to say, it's been so long ago, as far as report-wise, as to what I did and did not say to her at that point, other than informing her that I had heard she had heard something within the jail in regards to Miss Stermer or Mrs. Stermer, and asked her to tell me what she had heard.
And at that time, you were a trained detective, correct?
Yes.
And as part of your interviewing training, would you have told somebody pertinent details before they actually told you what you were talking to them about?
We don't give specific facts that we have. If per se it's something that we know and we want to find out if that person actually did know it, they'd have the same information. So we probably really would not give them exact information that we knew for fact. We would wait to see if they verified that fact.
And then once they verify that fact, then you may ask additional questions.
Correct.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller?
Did they say what she bought? Or did I miss it?
Give me 1 second, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Let me start out by asking you a little bit about the information you learned on the scene, okay?
Yes, sir.
At first, as I understand it, you learned your information from Detective Evans, Officer Evans.
My first contact, I believe, at the scene was with Sergeant Franks, who directed me to Deputy
Evans.
Evans. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then you learned from Deputy Evans where he thought Todd Stermer had initially been. Is that right?
He took me to where he had found him at, yes.
All right, where Deputy Evans found Todd Stermer.
That's what he told me.
Are you aware that Deputy Evans did not arrive on the scene until after Todd Stermer was moved from his initial position to his final position?
Your Honor, facts not in evidence.
It's already been testified to.
It's misconstruing the testimony, Your Honor.
Your
It's
Honor,
not facts and evidence.
Jury has notes.
I'll allow you to rephrase it to consistent with what's in evidence.
You're not aware, are you, of whether Deputy Evans came to the scene after Todd Stermer was moved?
My recollection is that when I spoke to Deputy Evans, he had told me that this location where he showed me was where Todd Stermer was at, and that he and others had moved him. He as well had moved him from that area, was my recollection.
Do you have any photographs to show us that?
No, I do not.
Did you put that in your report? Exactly where Todd Stermer had been?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look back at it. I may have made mention of where I was shown by Deputy Evans, but I'm not sure.
But you can't help us, as we sit here today, pinpoint where Todd Stermer may have originally been. Is that fair?
I was not there when he was moved, no.
Now let's talk about your van inspection. That happened the day before, correct?
I'm sorry,
I mean, the day after the incident.
are you referring to the search warrant?
Yes.
Okay,
Van inspect, hold
that
on.
was, I'm sorry,
The van inspection, we'll call it that.
I call it the search warrant of the van if it was, while it was inside the towing agency.
Fair enough. You had gotten a search warrant, am I right?
Again, I'm not sure. It's been some time. I know that I did, the day after being called to that scene, I was present the following day at a autopsy for Todd Stermer. The day after that was the search warrant at the towing company. As to did I author the search warrant, I do not remember.
When you were the officer in charge of this case, am I right?
I was a case officer in that respect. I had superiors as well. And certainly the initial evening of the incident, Lieutenant Brian Stump was in charge of the scene.
But somebody eventually is assigned as officer in charge of the case.
Yes,
Would that have been you?
I would say so, yes.
Okay, so you're the one who's in charge of marshaling all the evidence, am I right?
Again, other people can be handed off and be made responsible for items and things like that under the direction that I give them, or I myself, for certain piece of items of evidence, may be responsible for those as well.
I don't want to confuse us, but typically somebody has to be in charge of the case. You can't have 20 people all running willy-nilly doing their thing.
Yes, that's true.
So you're kind of the quarterback of that case, correct?
I guess that'd be a way of putting it.
And you were the quarterback of this case, correct?
Okay,
Yes?
sure.
Okay. So you attend a van inspection, a search warrant inspection on January 9.
That is true.
Right. A search warrant is issued when there's suspected to be a crime, correct?
Yeah, we don't have consent for the search of that van. We must take and articulate reasons why we want to search that van.
Okay, so when you saw blood on the front bumper or the skirt, you said, of that van, you thought something's odd here, right?
Yes,
And so you suspected there might be a crime, right?
certainly warranting investigation.
Okay, and that's what drove the search warrant for the van.
Yes,
Now, you went to the garage, correct?
yes. If
And
you're referring to the tow company,
Decatur Tow Company?
Yep.
It was inside, right?
yes.
So it's room temperature, right?
I cannot tell you if it was it was just out of the elements. I know that.
Inside, were you wearing a winter coat?
I do not remember what I was wearing that day.
Typically, if it's inside and it's roughly about room temperature, roughly about 70 degrees, right?
Again, I cannot remember what the temperature was.
Not if it's not
time.
You would
heated.
certainly expect that tires, after being inside for 2 days, would not have snow, and that would account for the tires being wet
It was,
and dirty.
dry. It was definitely dry, yes.
Now, this vehicle is a 1993 Ford Econoline van, correct?
Okay. I say that because I know it's a Ford van. I know it's brown. I don't remember the year without looking at a report.
You have your van inspection report, don't you, or no?
I have nothing up here.
Let me see if I can refresh your memory.
I hate this lawyer.
I don't mean to appear offstandish. I just, it's been that long, I don't remember.
18 years, right?
Yes, so I appreciate the
Yep.
help.
Happy to get. On the first page, it says, it should be noted that the vehicle is a 1990.
That's not the proper way of recollection or of refreshing someone's memory.
I'll ask you to take a look at the vehicle.
Sir, let me make a rule. Okay?
I'm sorry.
No objection sustained.
Good. I'll ask you to take a look at where it says vehicle on page 1, on the bottom.
Yay. This lawyer wants to.
Yes, sir.
Are you with me?
I am.
What kind of vehicle was it?
This lawyer drives me nuts because if they don't answer the way he wants them to, he will testify what he wanted them to say and keep going.
It's a 1993 Ford Econoline van, full size.
Full-size van. You recall it was a rear-wheel drive van.
I believe it was.
Rear-wheel drive van, full-size, roughly about 4,500 pounds, if you understand what vans weigh.
You got me on that one on weights and measures of vehicles, but it's a full size van.
Which you would expect weighs over 2 tons, don't you think?
I honestly, I couldn't tell you what my own vehicle weighed, but it's a full size big van.
And do you recall the condition of the rear tires?
Rear tires that were on the vehicle. I mean, as opposed to the spare back there, or I'm not
That's
sure which.
correct.
She just did finally a little bit, not as much as I wish she would. But from the very beginning, she should have got on him. But finally, she just went, "Sir, I need to make a ruling."
You mean the ones that are actually on the vehicle?
There are 4 tires
Yes,
on the vehicle.
yes.
I'm asking you about the 2 rear tires on the vehicle, not the spare. Do you recall the condition of those tires?
I believe I did make note of that. I do not recall, but I did make note of the condition of those tires and the types of each tire.
Happy to refresh your memory if you look at page 3 of your report at the top paragraph. Let me know when you're there.
Too little, too late.
Yes, I've read that top section.
What was the condition of the rear tires?
They were worn.
Worn rear tires on a rear-wheel drive van that is 14 years old at that time.
Okay, I didn't do the math on it, but the 2 tires to the front were definitely newer condition, notable than the ones to the back.
You did note the type of tires that were on the vehicle, correct?
I did.
Can you tell us what tires were on the vehicle?
If you,
I'll direct you to page 2 at the
okay,
bottom.
thank you. Okay, if it's permissible, I will read that the front driver's side tire was identified as a Uniroyal Tiger Paw, noted as a P235/75R15. The rear driver's side tire was identified as a Dunlop Radial Rover, noted as a P235/75R15. Number 3, the front passenger tire was identified as a National 400 XT, noted as a PR235/75R15. And the last rear tire was identified, or that being the rear passenger side tire, was identified as a Dunlop Radial Rover, noted as P235/75R15. So that both rear tires on that van were of the same make and model, both being Dunlop radial Rovers. And the front tires were of two different types of brand.
So for 4 wheels, we have 3 different kinds of tires, am I right?
That is correct.
Who does that? Who buys tires like that?
In looking at what was marked as Exhibit 29, do you have those pictures up?
I only have this report that you've given me up here.
You buy tires in sets, 2 at a time. Or 4 at a time. You don't buy just one.
May I approach, Your Honor? Give you those photos.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm also going to give you photos that we have marked as Exhibit E 1 to 4. And ask if my photos match up as part of your photos, and they should.
Really? Well, my husband's a car guy. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I still have not seen that movie. I've got to see that movie.
In observing the photos from the People's Exhibit and the photos that you handed me just now, noting that it has kind of part of my name on them, they can be the same photo. They appear to have been enlarged, and by development or whatever, the colors are not exactly the same of what I'm seeing in each picture, but I can say that they reflect the same imagery. And I don't have this one. I'm not sure what, it could have been a label on the outside of the vehicle, I'm guessing, but.
If that was from the door, if that was part.
Okay, I could have taken that picture.
Is the council testifying where that came from? This witness has no recollection of where that picture's from.
Let me set this up, if I may.
Prosecutor, have you seen these photos? I assume you're
I'm going
moving
to
to
move for
them.
their admission just 1 second, including
Okay,
that last one.
prosecutor, have you seen them?
I don't know what he's looking at, Your Honor, and I
Okay.
believe he's testifying as, I haven't seen what he's shown them.
I already told you it's Exhibit E, but you haven't.
Prosecutor, you do or don't have them?
We do have them in digital form, Your Honor.
Okay.
I wasn't sure what he was showing them at this time.
You also photographs? 4 photographs. You also have them in book form. I gave them to you.
Okay. So you know what he's showing?
No,
this
we do,
witness?
yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mueller?
You'd have taken a picture of the vehicle information on the vehicle, right?
I would say that's highly likely. I just,
So these 4 photographs that I'm showing you represent the vehicle that you inspected on January 9. Fair?
that's fair.
Yeah, I move for the admission of Exhibit E.1 to 4.
It's cumulative, Your Honor, and I don't think he has recognized these particular pictures as pictures he took. I believe counsel said you searched and you took pictures, but we haven't identified that he recognizes these pictures. I feel he's already testified that he doesn't recognize the sticker, so I do have an objection at this time.
Well, Your Honor, photographs for admissibility just have to represent fairly and accurately what was being represented in the photograph, and those include the vehicle that he inspected.
I agree. He doesn't have to be the one to have taken those photos, but I do have concern about the one. I don't know that you've laid a foundation for this one with the tab on it. Yeah, maybe question
Let
him.
me just
some
ask
more.
you, on that vehicle, would that comport with the vehicle you were expecting? You can look at the vehicle information.
it still doesn't meet the foundation that that's what he saw on the van.
Your report would include a VIN number, wouldn't it?
That's what I'm searching for right now in this report that you gave me, to see if I had recorded the VIN number in the report.
Let's look at page 1 where it says vehicle.
I'm reading right now that section, sir. And the VIN number that I recorded on my report does match the VIN number placed on this image that you handed to me. So it is the same VIN number.
Move
That I could fight to.
move of exhibit E4.
Right.
Objection, now leave the proper foundation in place.
Okay, we'll receive, what'd you say, E1 through 4, Mr. Mueller? What would you title those? E1 through 4?
E1 to 4.
1 to 4,
Yes.
okay, so
Thank
we'll
you.
omit those.
I'll show you, sir. I just want to show you. Already saw that photograph, right?
Yes,
Counsel showed it. Prosecutor showed
I
it.
can't hear you.
Prosecutor showed you that photograph. Remember, you talked about it?
Yes,
All
I
right.
believe I have it in front of me.
That's the photograph you took of the front end, correct?
It appears to be
Well, it matches one of your photos, doesn't it?
true. My statement in why I'm referring is that the MSP also was out there taking pictures at the same time. This being one of my photos, if it's so, it is so that it's mine.
It shows the blood on the front skirt, correct, in the front. Yes,
I identified it as a red stain at the time.
red stain. Do you see any red stains on the left fender?
On the fender?
Yes.
No, I can't say that I do.
If there had been stains on the left fender, you would have noted that, wouldn't you?
If I saw them, yes.
Did you have a tape measure at all?
While I was there,
Yes.
not certain that I did or didn't.
Okay. You can't help us with how far off the ground that lower skirt is,
No, I can't.
other than maybe knowing the radius of the tires?
The type and tire that, yeah, I recorded that.
Okay. Basically, the lower skirt comes about halfway up that tire, right?
It appears that way in the image.
You remember the temperature? Well, you arrived at 5 p.m. You remember that at the scene?
I did arrive around that time.
And it was light rain and snow at the time. You remember that?
I believe it, when I first got there, there was rain that turned to snow, yes.
You said there was a mishmash of fire trucks and EMT vehicles in that front area, correct?
In the front, would have been the east side of the house. There were a lot of emergency vehicles there, yes.
A lot.
Well, I mean, compared to never, I guess there may have been 2 or 3. There was certainly an ambulance. There was more than one fire truck there. I can't attest to other police vehicles without some kind of imagery, but it seemed very busy.
All fighting fire or treating Todd Stermer.
I would presume so. I saw the firemen working the fire, but I don't know what the emergency personnel were doing.
You don't know what tire tracks were in the front area of the house, front northeast corner of the house at 3:30 p.m., fair?
No,
Seeing that you got there at 5,
right,
and there's a mishmash of fire trucks right in that area.
in the front of the house, yeah.
And you did not take the 1993 Ford Econoline van and do any testing to determine what type of, with poor tires, In muddy conditions, what type of traction it might get, fair? You didn't do any of that.
I didn't do any tests of if, no.
You didn't take an exemplar. You know what an exemplar is?
No, I don't.
A similar van, 1993, and try to run any tests to see what kind of traction it might have, fair?
No, I did not.
So as you sit here, you have no evidence for us that can rule out that given the tire condition, given the weather conditions, the terrain, that Linda Stermer might have lost traction. You can't rule that out, can you?
I saw no evidence of anybody getting stuck, but I mean, as far as loss of traction, I'm not sure I follow what you mean.
Loss of traction to where Linda Stermer might go in another direction than where she intended to at first. You have no evidence for us.
At this point, I would prefer that he just ask questions of the detective.
This is cross-examination. I can ask a leading question.
It is, the leading's okay, but it does call for speculation.
Right. You'd be speculating to say one way or another whether there's any evidence that Linda Stermer had lost traction, right?
In fairness, what location are we talking about? Up above in front of the house?
Correct.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. That'd be pure speculation. Fair?
I cannot even speculate. I don't know what happened up there on the top section or the northeast section on top where the driveway was. I don't know.
And in terms of what you learned, you did not see Linda Stermer, correct?
Don't believe I did, no.
But you heard of people and talked to people who had seen Linda Stermer, correct?
Yes, I did.
And described the situation and the chaos?
In the interviews that I conducted out there was from the time those people arrived on scene, what they saw, what they did, and that was referred to me, yes.
And you learned, learned about the chaos that was going on.
From their perspective, yes.
And what their observations of Linda Stermer, how she was behaving. You learned that, correct?
I would have to it's been a long time, refer to a report that said I don't remember what they portrayed Linda Stermer as being at that time.
And if she was described as hysterical, that would be
Your Honor,
considered.
I believe it's asked and answered. He doesn't know, and now we're continuing then to put words in the witness's mouth.
It's a leading question, and I can explore his memory.
It's already asked and answered.
I'll allow one more time.
Thank you. If she was described as hysterical, sir, that would be consistent with somebody who had been fleeing a fire
This is
for her life.
speculation.
Sustain at this point. Please move on, Mr. Miller.
You said there was some fuel smell, a fuel type smell you smelled?
Yes,
And that's after you got there and you said you came 6 to 8 inches from Todd Stermer?
yeah, I believe I knelt down there looking at him, the position he was on at that time.
Okay, where did you look? He's close to 6 feet tall. Were you looking at his chest 6 to 8 inches? Were you looking at his face check 6 to 8 inches? Where?
Recollection-wise, I would have observed him as close as I could within reasonableness and from the head of him to the toe of him, kind of looked him over.
So you would have gotten, he's on the ground, right?
Yes, he is.
You would have gotten on your knees
Yes, I would have.
and you would have gotten between about 6 to 8 inches from his whole body.
Well, when you put it this close, maybe this would be better.
What would be better, 18 to 24
12 inches, 12 inches. I mean, I didn't climb on top of him by any means, but I did get close enough where I could smell, for lack of a better term, and not being able to positively identify the fuel, I would call it an accelerant, if you would, or a gassy smell.
You can distinguish gas from anything else?
Again, to sit here and say I could tell gasoline from kerosene or any other kind of fuel, whether it's diesel or not, I would have difficulty in pinpointing beyond saying fuel.
Okay, we'll just call it fuel because I don't want you to speculate and narrow it if you can't, okay?
I cannot, but thank you.
And you got there, you're smelling this and the clothes are still on him, correct?
Yes.
And the clothes are covering his private area and around his groin?
This would have still been in the time that clothing items were being removed
But you were
from
there.
him, from standpoint of when I first made contact to the point of removing clothes, the smell of fuel was there.
Okay. Now, if you wanted to know what did Todd Stermer smell like when the first people arrived before you got there, you with me?
Mhm.
Yes?
Before I got there,
If you wanted to know what he smelled like, would it be reasonable to ask the people who were first there whether they smelled any fuel? That sound reasonable?
I don't know that I asked that question.
Didn't ask you that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does it sound reasonable to you?
Sure.
To, if you wanted to know what he smelled like first, you'd ask the people who were there before you.
Sure.
Now, the clothing you took, and the people who were there before you, Mr. Matheny, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Calhoun, correct?
Yes.
And did you see a Dr. Richard Masali?
No, I don't remember seeing Dr. Masali.
Do you know who he was?
I believe he's a dentist that
He is a
lives
dentist.
nearby, and I think he has a practice in Decatur.
Okay.
I don't know him per se. I wouldn't know him on site.
You just don't remember him being there when you were there.
I don't remember seeing him or speaking with him right that moment now.
If the testimony is that he was one of the first three people there, Mr. Matheny, Ms. Calhoun, and Dr. Masali, it'd be smart to ask them what they smelled if you wanted to know what he smelled like. Sound reasonable?
I see what you're saying. I look at it. I guess I'm going from a standpoint, I know what he smelled like, so I didn't ask other people what they smelled when they got there.
I just asked would it be reasonable to ask those three.
I guess so.
Okay. Now let's talk about the clothing. You said you put the clothes that you saw on Todd in a bag.
The items that were pointed out to me that Mr. I'll make myself clear here. The items that Mr. Matheny said he had identified and told me he had placed on there, I took those items off of Mr. Stermer and put them in a bag with Deputy Evans. I believe the sheets, which I think there were two, and a blanket that were provided by it was determined that they were provided by the ambulance, were returned to the ambulance by Detective Lieutenant Stone, as I recall.
The clothes you put, you said you described it as a garbage bag.
Yes.
All right, so you put all those clothes, that could be evidence in this case, you understand?
Yes, I do.
All right, and you put all those clothes in one bag, is that right?
I did.
Are you an evidence technician?
I am.
Do you know the policy back then in 2007 of how you're supposed to separate evidence?
I believe I do. I guess my reasoning at the time was that those items had been placed on there by Mr. Matheny and weren't the original items he was coming out of the house in. So those items were placed by Mr. Matheny, and my way of thinking at that time was that they could all be together for analysis.
Even though they were potentially evidence,
Okay. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And typically evidence, if you're going to have separate items, should be bagged separately, correct?
Again, I explained my reasoning
He
for why they
just
weren't.
told you why he did
They
that.
should be bagged separately, at least according
If
to.
you say so. I don't recall, not to be argumentative, I went with my train of reasoning at that time.
Understand your reasoning, but the policy would be by the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office would be
He just told you why he did that.
to bag items of potential evidence separately. Fair?
I could not tell you the policy of the sheriff's department as far as evidence collection.
Okay, because you didn't know.
Dude,
I don't remember it.
Now, you mentioned speaking to Ms. Deloach,
Yes,
Cynthia Deloach, the attendant at the gas station.
yes, I
Yes.
do.
When you spoke to Mr. Matheny and Ms. Calhoun, it was on the scene, January 7, 2007, correct?
Yes,
Probably within a couple hours, right? While they're still on the scene.
I think so.
Yes?
Yes,
And the reason you did that, because the main purpose of interviewing people right as close to the time as you can is to make sure you get their best memory. Fair?
Sure,
Because you know memory fades over time,
sure.
especially if there's something that may not even affect you, right?
It can certainly go from person to person.
Okay. You received the receipts on February 1 of 2007, am I right?
February
Those-
7th, 2007. Yeah, yes,
Those gas station receipts we saw.
sure.
You did not speak to Cynthia DeLoach for almost 2.5 years. Do you remember that?
That is correct.
June 11, 2009, correct?
Correct.
Then you asked her, what was your memory from January 7, 2007, correct?
Not word specific, but I certainly interviewed her as to that time, yes.
And would you have remembered Linda Stermer from 2.5 years ago, correct?
I'm sorry, could you ask again?
You had the subject matter of, would you have remembered Linda Stermer at this gas station from 2.5 years ago?
Would I or would she? For me, I guess. I
Poor
would say-
question. Let me rephrase it.
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to fight with you.
No, I don't want to fight either.
No, I'm not.
I want to be clear.
Your subject matter would be, Ms. DeLoach, do you remember Linda Stermer being here on January 7, 2007, almost 2.5 years ago? That would have been general subject matter.
Again, not exact questioning, but certainly would have been the topic.
And you can certainly inspect, she was not in the middle of the fire, as far as you know.
Cindy DeLoach?
Yes.
No, she wasn't there that I
Okay.
know.
So she's remote from the incident, correct?
Correct?
And it didn't directly affect her, this fire, correct?
I couldn't say what,
Okay. So 2.5 years later, you might expect that her memory won't be so good. Fair?
Again, I can't speculate as to her memory recollection of things.
But typically, people's memories fade. Yes? Yours has, over 18 years,
18 years, certainly I don't remember everything.
which is, again, the main purpose of getting information as soon as you can would be to make sure the memory is fresh. Fair?
Absolutely.
And your reason for not doing it in February of 2007 was because you were busy with other things and you overlooked it, right?
It certainly would have been an overlooking of one of the interviews.
Of a key witness. Where was Linda Stermer the day of the fire?
I would say yes.
Have you ever been a field training officer?
No.
Have you ever trained any officers?
In certain things,
Like what?
I was basically putting it hand-to-hand combat instructor for the department.
Okay.
Other things, I used to teach alcohol.
Would you accept the reason from a rookie detective you might be overseeing? Hey, boss, I didn't interview this key witness because I was just too busy.
When you put it in that respect, it assumes that the person knew they were supposed to do it and just didn't do it because they got busy.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that if the person has said, I totally forgot, I was busy doing this, that, I forgot to do this, my reaction may be totally different to them if I was a supervisor.
Well, you were a veteran police officer at the time.
Okay?
You knew Cynthia DeLoach would have been a key witness in this case as to where Linda Stermer was on January 7, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, yes.
And your testimony in a prior hearing was, I overlooked it because I was just too busy.
Your Honor, if we're getting into asked and answered, I think he's asked this several times.
Answered.
Sir, I don't know if I got a direct answer to the question. Would you accept that excuse? I was too busy
Asked
to
and
interview a
answered,
key
Your Honor.
Well,
witness.
Mr. Mueller, you've already asked the question. It's been
Thank
answered.
you.
He's an ass. I'm sorry, but he is.
Oh, you were aware at least of the evidence storage policies of the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office in 2007, I imagine, right?
I could say so, yes.
Having been a detective,
Okay.
yes?
Yeah, sure.
From February 1 of 2007, when you picked up those tapes that we saw, the cash receipts,
Mhm.
to January 11, the day you interviewed Cynthia Deloach, those receipts were not in the evidence room of the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office, were they?
No, they were not.
They were in your office, correct?
That is correct.
Is there a policy that allows detectives to keep critical evidence for 2.5 years in their office without putting it in and logging it in storage with the property room?
I could not tell you that specific. I can only tell why I had those items, but I can't tell you what the specific policy of the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office is towards items of evidence. If I'm working a case and I want those items in my possession, I don't think I've ever been told no. Check them in, check them out, check them in, check them out.
You have to log in evidence for chain of custody reasons, don't you?
Yes,
Just so we, being the criminal defendant, the prosecutor, can make sure there's an appropriate chain of custody, right?
that's true.
You've learned that, correct?
Sure.
And Van Buren County Sheriff's Office has that policy, correct?
I don't know.
You didn't-
Again, I've been retired for a while, and it's been a while since I remember. But for me to say, what do they call it, quote and verse, I couldn't tell you. It is important to take your evidence and put it in an evidence room and log who's got it, when they've got it, if it's in, it's out, as long as you can follow that chain of custody.
Okay. In this case, there was no official chain of custody for those two receipts, were there?
I'm going to disagree a little bit, only from a standpoint of I have an evidence bag that they've been placed in. My name is placed on it, and then who I got it from, and then to me. And when I take it from me to somewhere else, then it's logged on to that evidence chain there, which that receipt does have it on the bag when I put it in evidence, when I had it out of evidence.
And it was 2.5 years later.
In my office, yes.
I want to switch.
Take a morning break at this time.
No problem.
Okay. So jury will take about a 15-minute break, report directly to the jury room. And remember, please don't talk about the case or do any research or watch any news reports.
Please talk to that dumbass attorney and tell him to straighten it up. See, these are the kind of judges that I do not like.
No, Your Honor.
None, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You can step down during the break. Thank you.
If you're going to be a judge, you got to be able to control your courtroom. And you can't let the lawyers just do whatever they want. Got to be like Judge Fiddler that day was in the Phil Spector trial. You will not yell at the witnesses in my courtroom.
And sir, you're reminded that you're still under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Mueller?
Thank you, Your Honor.
He's just letting them do whatever they want.
Just back up a little bit. Regarding your vehicle inspection, you told the jury that you found Linda Stermer's purse with $202 in it, correct?
I heard most of it. I found Linda Stermer's
I
purse.
apologize.
Pardon?
I apologize. I didn't speak clearly enough.
No, it's better. Actually, I have hearing issues, but
You found Linda Stermer's wallet or a purse in the car
I did.
with $202 in it.
Yes.
You also found Todd Stermer's wallet in the vehicle, didn't you?
I think I identified it as such, as a wallet. Yeah.
This being a rural area, not Detroit, people tend to leave their keys in the car, right?
Your Honor, objection, speculation.
He's lived up here.
He can testify if he leaves his own wallet in the car, but he certainly can't testify what the community
I'll
does. Your
sustain
Honor.
that objection.
Okay.
Calls for speculation.
The the search warrant inspection of the van, you were accompanied, or also there was a Mr. Hayhurst from the Michigan State Police, right?
Mr. Who?
Hayhurst?
Could have been. I don't remember everybody was there. I know the MSP crime lab team was there.
And as quarterback of this case, you're the one responsible for coordinating all the evidence, right?
When I called the MSP crime lab to come in, or if somebody did call them in to assist us, they do their own collection. They sometimes keep their evidence until they're done analyzing it. And in the end, they do ship it back to us and it gets logged in. As per se, who exactly logged it in, I couldn't tell you from back then.
I was just asking, as quarterback of this investigation, it would be your responsibility to gather the reports and evidence whenever they come in. Fair?
I'm going to say that when the reports come in from other agencies, if the person is working that, they'll either log it in or they will tell me it's in or present it to me. I can't say it always is going to come to me as you say, you refer to case manager. I just never really felt that way about the job other than, hey, there's something that needs to be done. If I can't do it, I'm going to ask you to do it. And we work kind of like that.
As officer in charge of any specific case, are you the primary liaison to the prosecutor's office on that case?
Yes, I'd say so, pertaining to if someone else can get some information that I was not personally interviewing or something, they would come along with me and we would talk to the prosecutor, but that person would say what they found out.
Do you recall that you lost the van report from the MSP as part of this case?
No, I don't remember it.
You don't remember doing that?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you recall that the in-car video from Deputy Gruss that showed this fire is missing?
No, I'm not aware of that either.
Nobody's told you that it can't be found?
I don't remember it, if that's what you're asking.
It certainly would be your responsibility to make sure the file is together as it goes to the prosecutor's office. Fair?
You mean all the stuff for a case?
Yes.
I guess I know what you're looking for, and this is for me to say I'm responsible for everything, but I'm going from the standpoint if Deputy Gruss had a videotape and it was logged in and wasn't able to be found. Are we referring from the very beginning to now, or are we talking about just recently? Or I don't remember the videotape at all, so I apologize.
If there was a videotape from Deputy Gruss showing the progression of fire, it would have been evidence in this case, correct?
Okay,
Yes,
it could be.
Well, it is.
Oh, okay, I
Your
didn't.
Honor, I'm going to object. He doesn't know about the videotape. He's testified that he doesn't know it exists. He didn't have any part in it. So asking questions about the videotape, then he has no knowledge.
It's always a better foundation.
Yeah, and lay your foundation, but also it's asked and answered.
Just real quick to put a bow on this. You are
How about,
responsible
why
for
didn't
making
you ask
sure that
Russ?
evidence related to the case gets in the case and goes to the
Asked and
prosecutor.
answered, Your
Asked
Honor.
and answered.
All right. One little last area. You talked about Dardita Gordon, who was a jailhouse witness. Remember that?
Yes,
And you interviewed her.
I did.
How did she come to your attention?
This is from the best of my memory, is that I was informed by a correction officer possibly that this person had said, and there were several of these kind of items at the time of where it came from exactly, but my guess would have been, it would have been a correction officer saying, hey, this person says they may have heard something, talk to that person says, well, so-and-so may have been closer to them than I was, and spurred off another interview. I'm again, not certain of how it came to be that I interviewed her. I just know that I was told that, or informed in some way, that she had heard a conversation that Linda Stermer had stated this in the jail at some point.
Do you know how close Ms. Gordon's cell was to Linda Stermer?
I do not.
Do you know what cell Linda Stermer was in the jail?
I do not.
Did you know the layout of the jail? I mean, it's Van Buren
Yes, I
County
know the
Jail.
layout of the jail. I know that more than just the cells, that people will be out of the cells for chapel services, counseling services, where they're brought in from different cells, but all are together in one main room. I can't remember the name of the room, but it's where everybody gets together if there's church services and things like that. So I don't know or remember anyways, what cells they were in, or whether they had met in a, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's Drugs Anonymous, there's all sorts of group meetings that they all come out of their cells and go to. I'm not sure what the perspective from back then, maybe yes, but today don't remember how she heard what she heard.
Fair enough. You can and help our jury with how Ms. Gordon would have received any information, right?
Not without refreshing my memory from a report, if I had stated in the report where she had heard it or how she had heard it.
But you said you don't give specific facts of a case to a witness, right?
We usually do not give exact facts of the case. We tend to hold those to see what the other person knows, if they match up with what we know.
You don't recall what happened in this case. What specific facts were given to Ms. Gordon? Would that be fair?
You already asked him that.
Not
That's
quite
an
sure
answer.
what you're asking me.
Do you recall what facts you gave Ms. Gordon about this case?
No, I guess not.
I'm just asking for your best memory.
Yeah, I mean, fact-wise, what's exactly a fact? No, I mean, I wanted to talk to her about what she may have heard in regards to Linda Stermer, in regards to what she had heard, and left it from there, I believe.
Jailhouse witnesses are often looking for favors or lenience or some type of quid pro for their quo of giving you information, aren't they? He's interviewed plenty of jailhouse
I'll allow it in
witnesses.
his experience,
Thank you.
if he knows.
You have interviewed jailhouse witnesses before,
Yes,
more than one,
yes.
and they are often looking for favors or lenience, aren't they?
Some are looking for a deal.
It's certainly not unexpected in your business.
No, but it's also something they're made fully aware that I have no power to grant them anything.
Okay, and then finally, one of the things you're looking for is corroboration, correct?
More than one person saying the same thing?
Or you have physical evidence that would support what they're saying, correct?
Sure.
Tell our jury what fact of Dardita Gordon's that you verified from any physical evidence or any inspection or anything.
Objection, Your Honor, based on hearsay.
I asked if you could verify
I
a
think the
fact.
present question doesn't call for hearsay, so I'll overrule that.
Was there anything that Dardita Gordon told you that you verified from any physical evidence from the scene or any objective evidence?
He's going to have to testify to hearsay to answer that question, Your Honor.
I think it's just a yes or no.
It's a simple yes or no.
Okay.
Do you recall as you sit here?
As I recall sitting here, did she give specific something that was a factual basis to the case?
That you verified, that you corroborated from
Right.
scene evidence or something?
Not that I recall.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Redirect?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to start out with Dardita Gordon and your interview with her. Would it help refresh your memory with what your interview was with Dardita Gordon if I gave you a copy of your report?
Sure.
Let me have you look over that report just to refresh your.
Not gonna lie, Dardita sounds too much like Gordita, and it's making me hungry.
memory. When you're done, if you could please just look up.
Now I want Taco Bell. Dang, he's taking his time. I don't see the boys. I guess they're witnesses. Or they just don't want to be there. Dang. Is he reading the whole interview?
Yes.
And does it help? You got a chance to read through that?
I beg your pardon?
You had an adequate chance to read through that?
Yes.
And does it help refresh your memory as to what your interview with Ms. Dardita Gordon was?
Yes.
And that was written very close to the time that you interviewed Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
So you had stated earlier in your testimony that you observed laceration on Mr. Todd Stermer's head on scene. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that you also observed blood pooling where you believed Mr. Todd Stermer then had been laying in the ground. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you receive information from Ms. Dardita Gordon that may or may not give insight into those lacerations that Todd Stermer received on his head? He doesn't need to tell me exactly. It's a follow-up from his cross about corroborating evidence, Your Honor.
Okay, as long as we're not going into the substance, but the current question's fine.
Thank you. So don't tell me what she said, because obviously that would be hearsay, but did you receive information from Dardita Gordon that may or may not give insight into those lacerations?
Yes.
Did you tell her about those head lacerations or about that blood pooling that you saw on scene before you talked to her about the potential information?
Objection form leading.
I'll allow it for this.
No.
So I want to get back to why you had those tapes in your office. Was your office secured at that time?
Yes, I had an office with a lock on it.
And was it common practice that you would lock those doors?
Yes,
And was evidence then kept secure in your office?
absolutely.
And why did it take you that amount of time to then interview Ms. Cynthia DeLoach at the Marathon Station?
Okay. I would say that it wasn't an important interview. It would have been surely a oversight on my part or on the team's part that we are a small department. We do multiple crimes at a time, and you may have heard the term before. It's juggling. You're juggling things. And the interview with Cindy DeLoach was something that when I was reviewing all the case reports and going through items that had been collected in preparation of this case, noting that the clerk had never been spoke to, and immediately was sought out to get an interview from them. But it was not that it wouldn't been considered important. It was more that it got slipped, if you want to say slipped through the crack, but found and rectified.
And you had already spoken to the owner of the gas station.
Yes, I had.
You'd gotten the tapes, the VHS tapes.
I did.
That it's getting to be leading, if you can rephrase.
Before that, did you get the tapes from the
Yes.
Marathon Station? Did you work then to try to view the tapes?
I did.
Did you work with another department to see if you could recover information on those tapes?
I did.
And you also then did you also recover the tapes, the cash register tapes that have been entered into the exhibits?
I did.
So all that had happened then close to the time frame of the fire.
Yes.
You were asked a little bit about tapes that were in the car, I believe from other officers. Do you recall what type of taping system was in the police cars at that time?
I don't.
As a detective, did you have a system in your car?
No, I did not.
Was that common for detectives not to have systems in their car?
No, detectives did not have recording devices at that time in their vehicles.
Detectives, did they have body cams at that time?
No, we didn't.
And again, this is back in 2007, is that correct?
Correct.
I want to bring your memory back to the picture that defense counsel had up on the screen for quite a while of the van being heisted up. Do you recall that picture?
Yes.
And do you recall if you saw any mud flaps on that van?
I don't recall seeing any mud flaps on the van.
Did that picture depict any?
No.
And do you recall seeing any mud in the wheel well in that picture?
No, I did not.
And do you remember if there was mud in the wheel well of the rear tires?
No, there was not.
I want to take you back to what you were thinking on the time at the scene. You were asked by defense counsel if you asked the original people on scene if they could smell accelerants on scene. Do you remember that question?
I do.
If you would have asked the people on scene and gotten an answer, would that have influenced your actions or what you thought you smelt?
No. I mean, if you're asking, did I, if I had asked them before I saw the body myself, their statement of they had smelled fuel on the body would influence my.
Yes. If they would have smelled fuel or not smelled fuel, would that have changed how you approached your investigation?
No. As far as I see it as, I was there, I smelled accelerants or fuel on Todd Stermer. So.
And you're the detective.
True. But what they smelled, I couldn't tell you, or I don't know that I would have asked.
But you're the detective and you still would have done your job to determine what you smelled. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would have recorded such.
You pumped gas before, Detective Maziowski?
Sure,
You know what gas smells like?
I do.
At the time of this fire, did you live close to Lawrence?
I lived in Lawrence Township, yes.
And do you recall, if you recall, was this a big deal in this small community?
Yes.
Lots of people talking about this event?
It's a small town.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's work backwards if I can. So you do know what gas smells like.
I have pumped gas and
Right.
have smelled
You know
gas.
what gas smells like? You've smelled it a lot, right?
Well as anybody else, yeah.
Okay, but you can't tell this jury that what you smelled on Todd Stermer was gasoline. You remember telling us that?
Yes, I do.
Now, you said you reviewed the file back in June of '09. As you were reviewing the file, remember you told?
Yeah, I do remember realizing that we had interviewed her and it was later in the investigation, yes. Exact date, kind of, if you say that's what I reported, then fine.
Isn't it true, sir, that an officer, Charity Cummings, brought that to your attention that Ms. Deloach might have some evidence to share, some information to share?
I honestly don't remember how I thought it was through review of it, but if it's documented as such, I'm not going to deny it.
It's certainly possible that it wasn't through your file review, it was through information you got from somebody that prompted you, oh my God, we didn't talk to this witness.
And
right?
again, that I can't remember, but if there's documentation to such, I would not say no to. I'm just saying from what I could remember, it was during reviews of things, so.
And you testified just a second ago that, I think you said, what are you, a small sheriff's office and you're juggling a lot of cases?
That is true.
Right? Death case is a big case, right?
Pardon?
A death case is a big case, small sheriff's office or not, right?
Okay, yes.
Yes. Didn't that case deserve your best effort
I believe I did give a very good effort in this case.
by simply overlooking it because you were too busy?
I believe nobody's infallible, but I will definitely admit it didn't get done in a timely fashion.
Okay. Then you were asked some questions about Dardita Gordon, and did she provide information as to what might have caused lacerations on Todd Stermer's head? You remember that?
I do.
Were asked questions about that?
She asked me if she gave any information that was pertinent to that case or that would have followed through. Yes, but specifically, she didn't say, that being the prosecutor, what specifically we were talking about.
Okay. You do not recall testifying 5 minutes ago that Dardita Gordon may have given you some information about what caused lacerations on Todd Stermer's head?
Okay, yes.
You do now remember.
Again, I'd almost have to go back to that. I thought that what was asked of me is, did she give any facts that were in the case or such? But if that's what it was, maybe I'm confused.
Okay, I don't want to confuse you. I want
Okay.
to make sure you and I are
You
very
do.
clear with each other.
Okay.
You never corroborated with a medical expert, like a medical examiner, Dr. Markey, what caused the lacerations on Mr. Stermer's head. Fair?
Not that I remember.
If you would have put it down in the report.
That would be very true.
So as you sit here today, you have no evidence to corroborate what Dardita Gordon may have told you regarding lacerations on Todd Stermer's head. Fair?
Argumentative, Your Honor.
I'll allow it for cross, although it is getting
Okay,
asked and answered.
During the course of interview with Dardita Gordon,
The question is,
questions were asked of her that, did she hear things from Linda Stermer? Did she hear them directly from Linda Stermer? And she would answer to that effect. And then in some items, she would not be totally clear. And so examples would be laid out to her as to, well, could it have been this? Or was it something like that or something? And she would respond to that if that's what you're looking
well,
about.
now you took me to a new little area.
Okay.
You had suggested to Dardita Gordon, could some injuries be the result of this?
As
Or-
an example only, not
As-
as a specific.
Fair enough. As an example only, and she said, yes, it could be.
That would be true.
Okay. And you never corroborated with any medical expert
That it would have been that item?
that it was true.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry,
I don't know
you
if
delay
it's been
slowly enough where I'm
answered.
sitting here finding myself trying to finish your sentence. I apologize.
Yeah, I think it has been asked, but I'm not sure it's been answered. So
Okay, no.
Last question. You can't help our jury at all with any source of lacerations to Todd Stermer's head. Fair?
No, I cannot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Detective Maziowski, it's your job to try to gather all information as to what may be pertinent in this investigation. Is that a fair statement?
That is true.
And so when you heard this information from Dardita Gordon, you interviewed her because it may or may not be pertinent.
That is correct.
And you gathered that information and presented it in your report with what Ms. Dardita Gordon said.
That is correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay.
Sir, did you interview any other, witnesses from the jail that would corroborate anything Dardita Gordon told you?
I couldn't say I remember one way or another. I did interview other people, but I don't remember the content or statements that they gave.
Okay. You interviewed several jailhouse witnesses trying to get information regarding Linda Stermer's involvement in the suspected crime. Fair?
Okay.
Yes?
Again, I just said, I don't remember how, I know I interviewed people from the jail in regards to this. I don't remember how many. I don't remember what they told me.
And you don't remember their names?
Not other than to refresh right here, there's a whole list of names that she told me, that being Miss Gordon told me were in the room. So there's a possibility I may have interviewed them.
And as far as you're able to tell us, nobody of all the people you interviewed corroborated anything Dardita Gordon said with respect to lacerations on the
He's
head.
already testified that he doesn't have any of the information from the others, so unless we want to sit here while he reads all of his reports, I don't think he can answer that question.
Well, then just real quick,
It's asked and answered, so
did
move
you
on,
prepare
please.
for trial today?
Dude!
Did I prepare
Did you
for
review
trial?
anything?
Oh, I did review some reports, yes.
Your reports?
Some of my reports.
Not that one.
This one right here? No.
And you did you meet with the prosecutor
I did for when I drove into town, yes.
to talk about the case and what your testimony is going to be?
I had been given outlines of what would be asked, I guess.
You were given outlines by the prosecutor of what might be the direction of the questions she's going, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
You didn't you didn't memorize your interviews with others word for word in preparation for this testimony. Is that a fair
No.
statement? And you understand that that's hearsay and you can't testify then to what others have told you.
That's correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller, you done? Okay. Jury, any questions of him? Yes, I have several coming.
She needs to put him in contempt. He talked right over her. And she just lets it slide. She needs the next break. I need her phone number. The next break, she needs to say, look, you do not talk over me. When there's an objection, you shut up until I make my ruling. And when I make my ruling, that is it. I do not like this judge. I'm sure she's a perfectly fine person, but she doesn't know how to control a courtroom. No, she doesn't. Not at all. No, please don't. I was only kidding. But she does. She needs to get serious with this guy. I mean, it's against court rules, number one, and secondly, it's rude. He didn't even let her finish talking. He just started the next question. Probably. I keep thinking if I ever do a merch line, what we need to put on a shirt. And I think, dude, has to be one of them. Because I do that a lot. That and where's my goat? I hope she's giving him hell right now. Oh no, they're going over juror questions. There are some people that are not cut out to be a judge. I mean, it's not just knowing the law and being able to make. Ooh, yeah, both of those would be good. I like dude, you're in contempt. It's not just about being able to make the right decisions. It's about being able to control your courtroom. And she's not doing it. Especially with the little tag team thing yesterday. What was that about? They went up to sidebar and came back with different attorneys. I've never seen that happen before.
Okay, I have some questions from the jury. Jury, I'm asking most of the questions. I've determined under the law not to ask others. Some may be addressed, though, in future witnesses. Was the Dardina Gordon interview, is that the name, Dardina Gordon? Dardina Gordon interview recorded or transcribed?
I believe it was recorded.
Are there any pictures of the rear tires on the van?
Only from what probably was shown here today. No, there's that I know of. I don't know or don't recall what the MSP crime lab took pictures of.
Do you recall if the pulley that retains the spare tire on the vehicle was fully retracted, or was there some play in the spare tire that would allow some rotation and tilt?
I do not know that.
That's a good question.
What was the date of Ms. Gordon's interview?
I know it was listed on the report that was in front of me. I no longer have that.
Would that refresh your recollection? Okay.
I could refresh. Okay. Excuse me. They're requesting, if I'm not mistaken, the date of the interview of Dardina Gordon.
Yes.
This is not that report.
That's not the report I just took.
It was the report you just took off the table here.
Well, while she's looking that up, sir, do you believe most of the tire tracks marked were going downhill?
I believe that to be the direction of travel based on where the van was located that was running on the backside of the house and the trail, if you will, or tracks going from the top of the house to where the vehicle rested, indicating that I saw no other tracks. It indicated to me that that's where they began, was at the top, and came down around behind the house.
Got it?
Thank you. The date of the interview of Dardita Gordon was on 10/28/2009, at approximately 12:02 p.m.
Did it appear that the van tracks were sliding down slope or simply traveling down to its final destination?
I could not tell that.
Did you verify what was on the marathon receipt? Without telling us what was on it, but did you verify?
I believe that the items were identified at some point as to what was purchased.
They can't say
That's
what was
all.
purchased?
Let me double check. Okay. Council, any questions in light of those questions and answers?
Just if you clarify, Your Honor.
Okay.
So you did verify, you remember there were two exhibits, the big roll of receipts and then the copy of the one receipt, correct? Do you remember that?
I do recall 2 rolls in the bag there.
I'm sorry, my question was probably confusing. Do you recall that there was a roll?
Yes.
And then there was a paper copy as a separate exhibit?
Yes.
Did you verify that that paper copy, that was a smaller section, was from that roll?
Yes. Yes.
And when you were looking at the tire tracks, did you see tread going down the hill, or were you unable to see tread at that time?
I do not remember seeing tread. Like if you're asking, could you identify the tread marks that were in that track going to the tires of the back of that van? I could not.
And weather conditions at that time, when you were looking at the tracks, I believe you had stated it was raining, turning to snow.
That is correct.
Was it muddy as well?
It was in certain locations, absolutely.
And do you recall when you got there at 5 o'clock, was it raining?
It was.
And last question for you, you remember, even though we didn't show you a picture, we showed you a picture of the front wheel well. You remember clearly then the back wheel well?
Question leading.
In observation of the van in general, as well as the wheel well, I did not see any large deposits of mud on the vehicle.
Whether it was in the front or the back, correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Can you describe the condition of those rear tires as poor? You remember that?
I stated they were worn.
Worn?
Yes.
You understand that it's like 1/16 of an inch tread and you have,
Objection, Your Honor, facts not in evidence. I'm not really sure if again he's testifying or what we're doing here.
do you know, sir, what the tread depth is when you should replace your tires?
I'm going to say, no, I don't. I see people putting a penny in there, and if it's beyond a certain way, you should replace the tires. I state that the tires in the front looked to have more tread than the ones in the rear, and that is why I stated them to be worn.
Worn. In fact, they were nearly bald, if you remember.
That
right?
I don't remember.
You can't tell from just tire tracks themselves which direction a vehicle is going, can you?
I didn't.
Because you couldn't.
I'm saying I didn't determine what direction the tires were going, or the track.
And as far as any path that you saw the vehicle, you can't help our jury with the path that Linda Stermer might have taken from the top of the hill to the point of final rest. Fair?
I believe what I said before was from the area going down the embankment where it was apparent they were the only set of treads coming down. This is at the embankment below the top let's call it the north west side of the driveway and parking area, if you will. After that, going down the hill, that was the only set of tracks I saw which went to the back of that van.
And you don't have any photos of those tracks, do you?
I believe photos were taken.
You don't have any photos of.
I don't have any photos.
Did you help Detective Guluz, Sergeant Guluz, do his mapping of the area?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. So the date of the Dardita Gordon interview was almost 3 years after this incident, wasn't it?
It was on 10/28 of 2009.
This being January 7, 2007, almost 3 years, 2 3/4.
Okay.
Right.
Your Honor, I think that's a mischaracterization. We're talking from January 7th to January of 07 to January of 09. That's 2 years.
Let's do the math, if I may.
How about we just move on?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Whether we're
It's
gonna
2 years
follow
and 2
The
days.
jury can do the math. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Anything else, Ms. Seiderbean?
How do you get 2 3/4 years out of 2 years and 2 days?
Dumbass! You dumbass! You're a dumbass. Such a dumbass. You're an ass.
That didn't work.
Dumbass! You dumbass! You're a dumbass. Such a dumbass. You're an ass.
Maziowski, when you talked to Dardita Gordon, she had been incarcerated, is that correct?
Correct.
And to your knowledge, she had been incarcerated at the same time or some overlapping time with Ms. Stermer, correct?
Yes.
So you would not have been able to follow up with Ms. Gordon until they had been incarcerated together, correct?
Correct.
Let's just ask why he did it at the time he did it.
So why would you have then been alerted to Ms. Gordon's statement at that time in 2009?
I would not have been alerted to any of that until after Linda Stermer had been incarcerated and brought to my attention that Dardita may have some information based on her being incarcerated during the same time as Ms. Stermer.
So you wouldn't have been able to interview Ms. Dardita Gordon before that, correct?
Form, leading.
Would you have been able to interview Dardita Gordon before Ms. Stermer and Ms. Gordon were incarcerated together?
No.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Can you both approach, please?
Yes.
It was January to January, 2 years apart, unless I heard the date wrong. Did I hear the date wrong? I thought it was January 7th, 2007 to January 9th, 2009. Did I hear the date wrong? Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe I heard it wrong. I thought the prosecutor said January 9th. Maybe he said October. But I thought she said January. He's still a dumbass, though. I don't care. He said October, she said January. Okay. All right. Why does Terry? Why does your
Witness,
computer autocorrect he to hello? It did
Mr.
it
Miller,
yesterday
any questions
too.
of this witness?
No, they said different months, Judy. He said October, she said January.
So you just mentioned that you were aware of the situation with Linda Stermer and Darty Gordon being in jail, right?
Did I know they were both in jail?
Yes.
Yes,
All right. Linda Stermer was jailed in June '09. You remember that?
I remember she was incarcerated. I don't have exact dates from back then, but okay.
If I tell you that, any reason?
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor, I don't know what the comment there was. I'd ask it be stricken.
June '09, if she was arrested and she was bonded out in August '09. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Okay, but you didn't interview Darty Gordon until October of '09, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thanks.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Jury, any other questions of him? May he be excused from his subpoena obligations, counsel?
I would ask that he please be excused, Your Honor.
No problem.
Okay, you're done and you're excused from your subpoena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that
If you
makes
don't mind, I'll
sense.
take those exhibits that are sitting.
Your Honor, may I? Grab my report.
Yeah. Do you want all those? You
If
can.
she got released in August, it makes sense that he didn't interview her till October. You're not going to interview her friend in jail until she's out of jail.
Remember the rules, no media, no talking about the case, no research, investigations, experiments. And I will see you back here at the jury room at 1 o'clock, please.
So why did she say January if it was October? Because I trust the prosecution more than I trust him. But it does make more sense for it to be October, because if she was let out in August, he's going to wait till after she's out.
I'm trying.
Sit here and enjoy your retirement.
I'm trying.
Oh, now he's trying to be nice to the guy. I like my phone too much.
Let's see what we're talking about.
Stuff just pops up on my phone.
What time would you like us back?
Because I'm subscribed to so many true crime
Maybe just. I might-
newsletters and
oh,
stuff.
You could probably kind of do it right now off the record and get a good start on it.
If I was on a jury, I couldn't use my phone because I get stuff popping up all the time. There's no way I could be on a jury. I'm exempt though, because, well, the first time I was ever called for duty, and I know I've told this story before, but it's my dad's employee. It was a drunk driving case. And the guy said the reason why he seemed to be drunk was because he had a metal plate in his head. And the guy, we lived up here. We had moved up here from Sarasota. And this trooper had been my dad's trooper in Sarasota. He moved up here when we did because he still wanted to be my dad's employee. He didn't want another boss. He wanted my dad to still be his boss. So he moved up here with us. Not with us, but at the same time. Because he didn't want a new boss. Come on, StreamYard. And this man, he was my brother's age. He had been over to our house for meals, for get-togethers, for parties. I played with his kids. Like, this guy was like family. And way after I was called for jury duty, way before I got called for jury duty. I mean, way after I got called for jury duty. Way after. Way after. When my dad died. He was one of the pallbearers at my dad's funeral. Anyway, he was the arresting officer. So, and then I got called to sit on the jury, and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. My dad was his boss. There's no way I could have sat on that jury. And then the next time I got called for jury duty was my last day of my first round of chemo. So I had to, I can't remember if I called or did it in writing. I think I had to do it in writing. I don't remember. It's been so long now. And then, I don't know, 6 months to a year later, I got another one. And I did the same thing, told them because of my arthritis and fibromyalgia that I couldn't sit for long periods at a time. And because at the time I couldn't. And I still can't. I mean, you know, you guys see me, I'm up. Ouch. I'm up, down, I'm shifting my position. I can't sit still. And there are days that I hurt super bad and I don't concentrate well. And so I was like, I can't be on a jury. I can't sit long enough. I can't concentrate some days. Some days I'm in so much pain, I can't function. And so I'm exempt now because of chronic illness. So, I mean, now that I'm a little better, I kind of wish I still could. But at the same time, I don't ever know when I'm going to have a flare either. So I don't want to have to be on a jury deciding the fate of someone when I'm in extreme pain either. You know what I mean? So that wouldn't be fair to that person. And I think there are times when I doubt where I live it wouldn't be anything. It would be like a traffic ticket thing. It would never be anything big deal. But I wouldn't want to have to decide anything important like that. If I was having a flare, I wouldn't be concentrating well. I wouldn't be thinking, with the brain fog, I wouldn't be thinking straight. I wouldn't want to do that to somebody. That wouldn't be fair. That's why I quit nursing. That's why I went on disability and quit nursing, was because there are days that I couldn't function normally, and you don't want your nurse to not be able to function correctly and think correctly. That's not the kind of nurse you want to have. So that's why. So what did I ask? I asked Alita one time. Oh, I asked her if female attorneys were allowed to wear makeup, because it seemed like for a while I never saw a female attorney with makeup on. Like the Daryl Brooks case, neither of them wore makeup. Elaine in the Johnny Depp case didn't wear makeup, or didn't look like she would wear makeup. I'm trying to remember what other cases, but there was like a bunch of cases right in a row where none of the female attorneys ever wore makeup. And I was like, so Legal Bites, the channel I used to mod for, I was like, Alita, are you guys not allowed to wear makeup in the courtroom? And she goes, yeah, we are. I was like, I don't remember. Camille what was her last name? Sanchez? Camille? Did she have makeup on? She was just a natural beauty, so she probably didn't wear any, or not much if she did. But yeah, so I've never been on it. Well, I mean, I guess technically I was. Yeah. Vasquez. Where'd I get Sanchez from? Vasquez. Okay, guys. I'm going to take a little break. You guys be back at 1. I know. All of the lawyers in the Russ case was bald too. And somebody said something about that. And I had just watched Oppenheimer. And I was like, oh yeah, it's from all the radiation fallout. That's why they're all bald, because it was in New Mexico. Yeah, noon Central Time. So I will see you back at 1 Eastern, 12 Central, and whatever the other times are. And I gotta go see what he's barking at, because he's not at the door. So I don't. What are you barking at? Why are you eating toilet paper? Okay. I will see you guys at 1. Have a nice lunch.